So, ladies and gents, we're going to move swiftly on to our next session, which is, quickly out if you're off, keep seated if you're staying, building the modern sports super brand. What legacy giants can learn from digital disruptors. And to take you through this, would you give a very warm welcome to the stage, Gregg Oldfield, the CEO of Engage, Brave Bison, and Michael Sutherland, the COO and co-founder of STRIKR. Gentlemen, coming up, and over to you. Thank you. Round of applause, please, for Gregg and for Michael. Well done. I'll give you a quick warm welcome. Nice to see you, warm to the touch. I'll let you take it away. Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone. Just again, I'm Gregg Oldfield, CEO of Engage, part of the sport and entertainment business for Brave Bison, and I'd like to introduce Michael Sutherland, good friend and colleague over many years. He's the former Chief Transformation Officer from Real Madrid, and now the co-founder and COO of STRIKR. Before we get into STRIKR, I think the best thing for us to do is just to show you just a 1-minute short reel, just to give you some context and background on what STRIKR is as the new sports tech-led brand. So I'll just quickly show you that. Double click.
There we go. You can take me on my element.
You can feel the energy in the room. No dodgy decisions, no corruption.
Completely new concept, never seen anything like it.
No one can lie. If a punch lands, it lands, it goes on the board.
Massive power punches going in.
You don't have to be a mystery no more. Win these punches surprise.
The mouth guard measures the impact data with over 2,000 data points coming off of every punch.
This has revolutionised boxing and finally made it engaging for everyone.
Unbelievable. Fighting back with a left and a right as they go to war.
Nowhere else do you get this kind of access this close to the action. It is incredible.
So hopefully that just gives you a little bit of a flavour for this new tech-led sports brand. So just in terms of the new technology, Michael, it's a lot of testing. So how many hours of testing have you put into the system now to replace judges effectively with a new tech-led live scoring system?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, we've spent the last, a bit more than a year now, basically like any startup, testing, learning, iterating over and over and over again. Run a number of different live tests, basically our proof of concept tests every time, learning a little bit more, getting the tech working. Just to sort of, as a very quick overview of what the tech is, as you see, it's live scoring. So what we say is we see the punch and we feel the punch and we score the punch. So we've got a computer vision system that's seeing the punch. We've got a mouth guard that is feeling the impact of the punch, and in real time through sensor fusion, we're able to actually determine that punch landed. It's a scoring punch, and as you saw, there's different amounts of points for different punches. So that's how it works. So we've been doing this over the last year. We've run our first sort of public live test event in March, actually here in London at the Outernet. That's where you see the video from, and it was the first time to show the live scoring actually working. We had some great boxes in, and it was a great night, and everyone had a chance to sort of see it working.
So the first question to you, Michael, is you've been on quite a journey so far in your career. Tell me a little bit about your background, how it led you to STRIKR, and then how you're approaching it as a next generation sports brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, most of my career has been in Silicon Valley. Always sort of focused on emerging tech, motion sensing, computer vision, AI, immersive computing. But I mean, technology for me has always been, it's an enabler, right? And so it's really industry independent. So the transition to the sports world was actually quite a natural evolution for me. And I joined Real Madrid in 2019 as the Chief Transformation Officer. And at Real Madrid, you know, one of the, and this is similar with most sort of tier one properties, you know, one of the challenges that we were looking at was, you know, how do you engage a global audience at scale, and specifically how do you turn that engagement into value for the fan and obviously for the club or the league. And doing so, working within the structures, and there are constraints of that traditional media ecosystem. And so for us, a big part of our focus was, of course, on our social platforms, our owned digital platforms. We shifted during that time from sort of a linear model to very much a focus on sort of digital-first production. We built an interconnected digital ecosystem built around a unified digital fan identity, all built on top of a real-time data infrastructure. But there's always sort of a ceiling that you kind of reach in terms of innovation when you're moving against the constraints of an existing ecosystem.
So why is STRIKR different to the model that you've been in, where, as you say, you have a bit of a ceiling? That's probably a lot of it around broadcasts or deals that have been done. It's a very long, you've joined a brand that is well established, but now you're taking something different and you, from the ground upwards, how is STRIKR different to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I guess the origin story was, I met my co-founder, Stephen Duval, who may be here, I'm not sure. He's got over 25 years in sort of creating new sports IPs, superset tennis, but he's also invested over $3 billion, not of his own money, but over $3 billion dollars into the ecosystem in terms of sports media entertainment. So wealth of experience. And when I met him, he shared with me his vision for this new boxing format. But what really inspired me was this sort of idea that we had this blank canvas to work with. And so, STRIKR has been designed as a sport from the ground up. It's a new sports IP, but it merges tech, storytelling, and the ability for real ownership, real fan ownership in this league. So, as you saw, it's a shortened format version of boxing. It uses our proprietary, what we call True Score live scoring system. We have 8 fighters in a league that participate across 7 events in the season. They're all vying for the top place on a league leaderboard. And then that leaderboard basically determines who gets to go through to the global championship at the end of the season. Each of those events consists of a 3-round quarterfinal series, a 4-round semi-final, and then a 5-round final on the night. All on the same night, 3-hour non-stop action, no undercards, very different format to traditional boxing. But what it does mean is that each fighter could face up to 3 opponents in the same night. So in order to actually win the STRIKR championship, that global championship at the end of the year, you really need to be one of the most physically and mentally tough fighters on the planet. It's a really grueling format. So as a sport, we're not just selling tickets. We are building a platform where we can engage fans can earn rewards, but also fans can actually earn ownership in the league, which we think is a really, really critical part to the next generation of sports. So as we sort of think about this, we're obviously building a sport that's for today's sports fan, but more than that, we're really building a brand that has sustainability and longevity for the future.
And just to pick up on one of the points there, just how are you going to select the fighters? Is there a male, female? What's your approach to how you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, first of all, in the sort of the spirit that sport is no longer just confined in this box. It is an entertainment product. And so because of that, storytelling becomes a rich part of this. So in order to select the fighters, we're actually going to be running a full selection process where we basically throw down the gauntlet for the best fighters to come to us, test their mettle through a selection process. You can basically think X Factor meets the contender. And so through episodic content that we actually release through social media, before the competition's even started, we start that storytelling around who these athletes are. So to your point about whether male or female, so one of the core principles that we have in STRIKR is that we feel very strongly about sort of gender equality. So boxing, you might typically think it's a male sport, but it's not a male sport. We've got some amazing fights. If anyone that's got Netflix will see that we've got a great women's fight coming up very, very shortly. And so, unfortunately, today where it's at, it's going to take us a little bit longer to run that selection process for the women. So we'll be launching the women's format in 2027. We'll be launching the men's in 2026. But the way that we think about this as a product, as a distribution platform, is absolute equality across the board. So the way we distribute it, the way we package it, the way we market it, no sort of separation between the two. It is one competition, and obviously there's leagues for men and there's leagues for women.
So you've transformed one of the iconic football clubs in the world. What lessons from you're seeing from Tier 1 sports have you taken into how you're going to shape STRIKR going forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, we spent a lot of time really thinking about, some of the challenges, and this is, going back in the last years. I mean, thinking about some of the challenges that really sports IP have faced with the current structure in potentially achieving their sort of true potential as a brand. And I would sort of highlight the media rights architecture as one of those areas that are quite challenging. Now, the media rights architecture that exists in most sports, or traditional sports at least, it's obviously providing a very solid and dependable revenue pillar. So it's been a very important part of the business model of sports until today. The problem is that comes at a cost. And it comes at a cost of flexibility, and it honestly comes at a cost of the fan experience of the product. So at Real Madrid, I mean, we found that many of the fan touch points that they had with the club really came through intermediaries. It came through the broadcaster, it came through a sports retailer, or it came through another third party that was delivering that service on our behalf. And so fans have sort of got this fragmented experience of the sports, and it's a frustrating experience often, and it's the fans that pay the price. And so that can come through bundled cable fees, multiple subscriptions that you're having to pay, difficulty in accessing the sport that you want to watch. Just changes every time there's a new rights cycle. I mean, if anyone's following what's happening in League One at the moment, I mean, these are some of the challenges that are now starting to surface, the fractures that are forming. There's also, from a sports IP perspective, there's really a loss of kind of control, the loss of data. And so, Tier 1 rights holders are already thinking about this. They're already making moves. They're making changes. But it's very difficult to make these changes within the existing ecosystem. And so, if you really want to kind of innovate in this space, you really need to be working with a clean slate media model. And so at STRIKR, we sort of started by asking ourselves the question, how can we make watching a fight completely frictionless? And the answer is pretty obvious. I mean, it should be as simple as just sharing a link through WhatsApp and you just click it and watch it, right? No paywall, no app to download, no login, just basically click and watch it. But in order to do that, we had to basically throw out the entire traditional media model. And doing so, though, has just opened up all the opportunities that we've got ahead of us now.
And in terms of the numbers that you're looking at, in terms of how many fans, how many views are you expecting, like in year one, just in terms of reaching that mass through, as you say, that new model, which is wider distribution, free to air, anyone, creator networks? What's the sort of target that you have?
Yeah, well, obviously we want to be conservative. We're an emerging sport. But by leveraging social media as a distribution platform, obviously putting a lot of focus on platforms like YouTube, we're working very closely with YouTube. They're really leaning in with us on this. And leveraging some of the sort of the models that you've seen from most of probably the creators that you've seen, the influencers that you've seen, there's this model really around sort of long form to short form content, right? Producing long form content, live, shoulder content, being able to clip that up, being able to distribute those shorts through different social media channels, and being able to really leverage the algorithms themselves to get that content distributed. So the benefit we have is we have a potential reach of over 1 billion people. Any IP-connected device, whether it's a mobile phone, whether it's a smart television, whether it's an iPad, we have the ability to reach those people as long as our content's great. So, we're conservatively looking, and based on the numbers and based on the ability to build this, which we'll go into a little bit, this distributed network of creators, we believe that without going through the traditional linear path, we're able to reach the sort of around 200,000 concurrent users. So that's really about where we're targeting. But what's really interesting is that when you go beyond that and you look at the total viewership, we can easily get into the hundreds of millions, and even as a personal target, getting to 1 billion views in the first season. And these might seem like crazy numbers, but because of where technology's at, because of where consumption's at, these numbers are actually possible for an emerging sport to actually achieve these. And it's crazy that we live in a time like that. So.
And then just probably we've got 1 minute left just to talk about maybe commercial. How are you seeing you're able to commercialize the sport, and how you're changing or being different from the current ways that sponsorship would have been generated or income would have been generated at Real Madrid or other Tier 1 sports?
Well, I mean, STRIKR's core revenue pillars are really brand partnerships, obviously the live events, but also for the first time ever in combat sports will be live in-play sports betting. Now, this is where basically 70% of the growth in sports betting is happening. And it's specifically because of the fact that we do live scoring, so point-by-point based scoring. It's the first time, and we're able to crack open over 140 new sports betting markets compared to the sort of the low single digits that you'd see typically today. So for many fans, not all fans, that means participation, real viewership turns into participation, really.
That's
we've
run out of time, but that's there are probably other things we could talk about, but that's the session on STRIKR. Thank you very much, Michael, for joining us, and thank you very much for listening.
All right.